5 years ago, I released my first game, but looking back, it was pretty terrible. So to prove that I've become a better game dev, I'm going to remake and upgrade my first game in only 24 hours. But to make things even more challenging, I made this wheel where every 4 hours in the challenge, I'm going to have to spin it and follow whatever challenge it comes up with for the next 4 hours. And one's even that I can't code. I don't know how I'll do that either. I quickly started the timer and opened a new project in Unity. But what are we even trying to recreate anyway? Well, the original game was this space minery game where you'd grapple around to asteroids and mine them, and that was the entire game. So to improve this, I'm making the game 3D and adding a bunch more features. Starting with the main mechanic of the game, the grapple hook. Oh hey, there happens to be this tutorial from a tiny YouTuber saying exactly how to make a grapple hook. So let's just copy that and that's mine now. Oh, and while we're at it, I think we should probably also add some space since the game's in space. And now let's give the player some simple rocket thruster movements so they can move about without the grapple hook. And boom, with only a small amount of code and a simple grapple hook, we've got this awesome space world which you can navigate in this rocket ship. The other main thing in the original game were asteroids, and I don't want to sound a bit presumptuous here, but I don't think that really looks much like an asteroid. So I coded a new script that spawns asteroids around the map and makes them get slightly less common as you go further and further away from the start. And let's probably make them slightly less common. Huh? What's that noise? It's a challenge wheel. And whatever challenge it lands on, I'm going to have to follow for the next 4 hours, which could quite literally break this entire game if it's anything too bad. Random mechanic? Okay, well, I guess let's see. Poison. Huh. Well, I guess we could make it have some oxygen meter because the CO2's poisoning your air supply or something, or maybe the rocket fuel is leaking into your air supply. I don't know, it's poison. Whatever it is, it's something poisonous, and once you run out, the game will start screaming to you, "Oxygen ran out, die, 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 die," before you violently explode. But you know what else is poison? My enemies. You can tell because they're red and glowing. I think let's just turn that down a little bit. When I made the original, I didn't really know how to implement enemies, so I just sort of gave them their own grapple hook and just sort of spun it around the player until they eventually killed the player. Look, I wasn't very good at the time, but I had no idea how to do any of this stuff. So to be somewhat faithful to the original, I'm gonna copy the exact same idea. But unlike the original, these enemies are actually pretty cool. Instead of just trying to crash into the player like in the original, I thought of a much better idea. They just shoot a massive laser beam straight at you. And what happens when you get hit by one of these laser beams? Your oxygen runs out because of shields or something. I don't know. Something I am sure about, however, is that we need to be able to harvest these asteroids. The literal name of the first game was Grapple Miner. And we currently can't harvest anything. So to solve this, I'll make the asteroids drop stuff, and for now it'll only be some of these diamonds. Yep. They're definitely diamonds, but soon we'll add more, and then the game will be great. If we also add a display of all the items you picked up, we get this. I should probably fix it. I know. Well, we've successfully completed the wheels challenge, and the timer is now at 8 hours, which means we need to spin the wheel again. And I really hope that no coding never comes up. No internet, great, we've managed to successfully avoid the no code challenge, but not having access to the internet is pretty difficult. So I'll have to rely on my own knowledge and countless hours of watching Bracky's tutorials until I hopefully stumble my way through the dark and make something work. You might be saying, it can't be that difficult. It's not like Unity randomly and fairly drastically changes their code every few years. Right? It's not like if you use find object of type, Unity will start randomly complaining at you to use find object by type because it's old or something. And well, just know this is incredibly infuriating. With the restriction of the current challenge, I'd somehow searched the depths of my knowledge and remember this Bracky's tutorial from probably 7 or so years ago, which explained exactly how to implement audio into Unity, and it was the exact same tutorial I used for the first game. And with only about 40 minutes or so of coding, I managed to get a fully implemented audio system, which is pretty good. Sound is great and all, but a game without visuals is pretty much not a game. So I spent the next few hours or something modeling this. a brilliant rocket ship for the player. Okay, maybe not hours for that, but what I did spend hours on was the trail for the player. I somehow managed to spend probably about an hour or so modeling this using Unity's particle system, remembering another tutorial I'd watched many years ago, and I think most of my knowledge is from tutorials. You see this massive cube in the middle of the world? No. Let's make it bigger then. Oh god. This is a space station, and not just any space station. This is the key to the game. And what sort of connection does it have to the original, you may be asking? Absolutely none. I just added this because I thought it would be cool. But it's not just cool, because this is actually the key to the entire new game. So instead of like the original, where you just spin around endlessly mining asteroids to try and rack up a big score, in this game, you're going to actually have to get out there, mine some asteroids, and then return back with your winnings. Otherwise you just die in space, and that's kind of dull. And if you're really observant, you might have noticed that this is just a cube and not a space station. So I remodeled it and replaced it with some code so that when you fly into it, the game ends and you keep all your stuff and you don't die. Yay. And once you fly into it, you go into this other world, the sort of main menu world, where you see these 3 options for difficulty, and I want you to guess, what might these difficulty options possibly do?
Welcome everyone to the official Grapple Miner game show, and today I'm joined by all of you at home. And the question we are asking today is, what does the difficulty option do? Does it A, make the game more difficult as it claimed? Or B, absolutely nothing? And whilst we're waiting for the answers to come in from all of you at home, make sure to subscribe. And if you guessed B, you are correct. And
this makes perfect sense that it does nothing. Aye. Uh-oh. Where do you come from? I think I lost track of time with that riveting game show, but another 4 hours has passed and it's time to spin the wheel again. No coding. Okay, well, I'm sure that'll be easy enough. I guess I'll go outside and touch some grass. And in that universe, I lived happily ever after. I left this challenge behind me and chased my dreams, but unfortunately for me, I never did that. I stayed determined and realized that if I can't code, I'm going to have to do whatever I can to make this work. I'll have to do more. I'll have to start creating a huge amount of assets to make this game absolutely perfect, so that by the time I can code, there is nothing left to do apart from coding. How about we start by making some sounds? Let's and we can just combine them all and we can get some really cool sound effects, like for lasers and stuff. Now, we can't quite implement them until we can code again, but just as a sneak peek, here's what the game will sound like by the end. Now that we have all these cool audio effects for the games, the enemy's starting to look pretty outdated. I mean, if you look really closely, you might have noticed it's just a red cube. Like how you might have noticed that you can download the game via the link in the description for completely free. Or if you want to support me, you can get the game files and an extra behind the scenes video where I go even more in depth into how I made the game. That segue made a lot of sense. Right, where were we? I was opening up Blender, getting to work making these 2 new enemies. This one shoots lasers and is deadly. This other one shoots bullets and is even more deadly. And it even has this really cool screen where you can put an angry face or something. And let's add some code to implement them. Oh wait, we still can't code. The next 4 hours are going to be pretty infuriating. I also quickly upgraded the player model again and added a bunch of new items that can be found in the asteroids, like this, an actual diamond, or this, some gold, or some copper, or some iron, or rather, well, okay, I would have, but unfortunately, that code's broken. It's a tiny 1-line fix, but I can't fix it because I can't code. I'll have to wait to do that later. Keeping with the art stuff, I also made a bunch of these cool mechanical sci-fi Death Star-like textures using this program called JS Placement, which unfortunately has been discontinued, but luckily I still had a copy of it on my PC, which I used to make the space station and all the enemies and player just pop a bit more. And now it dawns, the final challenge. Only one option is left, and that is inverted controls. Just to clarify, there are 8 hours left, but for the last 4 hours there's no challenge because otherwise you could get stuck and that would be bad. When creating this challenge, I assumed there'd be an easy setting in Windows to just invert the mouse, but it's not there. So I had to resort to alternative means. And so I managed to find this app, which had been last updated a decade ago, and I installed it to my brand new computer and just hoped it didn't give me a virus. And I don't think it did, but you never know. And this will make it so that every time I move my mouse up, it goes down. Every time I go left, it goes right. Every time I go down, it goes up. Every time I go right, it goes left. You get the point. It's incredibly infuriating. This made it one of the most annoying challenges because, well, it didn't technically stop me from doing anything, but because I only had 4 hours, most of the things that I would be able to do if I had enough patience and tenacity, I just physically couldn't do. If I wanted to make some more changes in some Blender or something, that would take me over an hour for something that might have taken me only 20 odd minutes initially. Bearing this in mind, I decided to start coding the upgraded laser enemy and also this entirely new bullet shooting enemy who predicts where you're going to be based on the velocity and stuff and starts shooting right at you. And he is incredibly dangerous because you can't really get close. And building on that, I finally got round to adding the actual laser shooting and rocket sounds to the game after all that time, which made the enemies seem, admittedly, much more menacing. Now that we've got all the enemies sorted, I started working on a quest system to give more of a purpose to each run, as each time you leave the space station to start a run, you'll get a choice of 3 random groups of items, one of which you pick and have to collect all of them in order for the doors to the space station to open. And not only will you need to harvest a bunch of asteroids, but also, because I just added these computer parts, you may need to kill a bunch of the enemies in order to escape. And in case you hadn't guessed by now, if you stay out there too long or get hit by the enemies too much, your oxygen or whatever that fuel meter is will run out and you'll die in space. As the last 4 hours dawn, I'm finally free from the inverted controls. And the game is almost done, so let's speedrun the next few bits. I finished a quest system and upgraded the space station with some textures and cleaner shapes. I changed all the fonts in the game so it looks nicer. I upgraded the home screen to look nicer. I play tested the game repeatedly and modified enemy data and spawn settings to make the game more fun. I got bored. I realized I was meant to be doing things, fixed some bugs, got bored again, did more stuff. And as the last minutes drew near, I played the game one last time as the timer ticked. 24 hours and the challenge drew to a close. And then I said, if you want to see me struggle again, well, you might enjoy one of these videos. Maybe this one, where I made a VR zombie shooter and it almost broke me.